so glad JL wasn't wearing. Yeah, you know what?
How many do you think it was? I was thinking about maybe 10. Maybe 10.
We'll go ahead and mute JL there for a second while he gets his shit together. JL, you give me a thumbs up when you're ready. Hey everybody, it's that time. It's time for the dark corner over here, the light corner down there, and I don't know what the fuck's going on with JL. Oh, hey buddy, is that your dress in the background again? That's very cute. It's very
cute. The deal. Yeah, I forgot to. I was in a rush, so I didn't get a chance to take it out of there.
It's okay.
Oh, that's fine. Just leave it up.
Your mic settings are bad again, Eugene.
Oh no, hang on.
Yeah. What else is new?
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but it always changes. Like it always.
Okay, what about now?
That's better.
That's all right.
Hello, everybody. We have tons of folks in the old side chat. Let's give a quick hello to everybody. Zachariah Hooper says, "Hey, is a plot hole." Fergie Inba says, "Short answer, yes. The person who handed to him bears some responsibility. He bears ultimate responsibility." We'll come back to that comment here in just a minute. Syrian, hello, Chris Durham Music Channel. Good to see you. Liam Wakefield, Little Dickens. Such a funny name. Charlie Welch, Beaver C. Robert Casal says, "What's up, my globe-tarded heretics?" Colony 3. Bandon. My goodness, so many awesome people. Mr. Schrodinger's cat says, "Hi, everyone." Mom and Take His Madness says, "Dad, I love you. That's not really my wife. That's Jocelyn with my wife's telephone."
Hey, no kink shame. Whatever you and your wife call each other, it's all good.
You know.
Yeah. No questions asked.
Who did I miss? David Coombs, Jinju. Who else we have? My goodness, so many folks. So many folks. Strike 3, the legend says a lot. Irish Stubborn Girl. Aaron Reese says, as producer, he should have provided the money for union crew to control the firearms there. That's my entire opinion. We'll come back to that one as well. Love you too there, buddy. Let's see. Is that everybody? Is that everybody? Did I miss anybody? If I missed you, I apologize. Hello to everybody. Ryan and Oz, I do see you down there. John Eagle. Hey, I left MC Tune for this. Well,
you won't regret it.
You won't regret it. No. I mean, you might, but whatever.
That's a flat earther debate. What is there to be gained?
Exactly.
Yeah. You're gonna learn more here.
Yeah.
Gavlar, the Hand of Zod, Facty, Irish Dublin Girl. My goodness, so many awesome people.
Gavlar's in the house. I haven't seen Gavlar in a minute.
Is here.
Yeah.
Good to see you. Omni Orosporo says, "You can call me Daddy."
No. Johnny prefers puppy. I don't see him refuting that.
That was not a no.
Well, in the spirit of Halloween, before we get into speaking of my wife, and this came up on my feed today. This was Halloween 9 years ago. Boom.
Hey.
Yeah. Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah. You don't have to ask who did the makeup on that one.
Pegami puppy.
No, please keep the makeup on.
It was. I gotta say, it was a little weird that night. It was a different night. We'll just put it like that. Anyway,
I have the most confused erection ever.
Oh, we have a new member. Aaron Reese is becoming. Is it a new
Speaking
member?
of which,
welcome to the Plot Hole Crew.
I heard 30 seconds of this, and I'm a Prime Patreon member now.
There we are. Oh, jeez. All right, let's get into. Hey, Elizabeth, good to see you. Johnny O looks good in a skirt. Thank you, Colony. I wish I looked that good in a skirt. Just, anyway, let's get off that subject. Surrender Monkey says, "What's to be earned from accepting reality?" Oh dear. What's to be earned from accepting the reality that the earth is a globe? I don't know. Anyway, so here we are. We are here for a reason. Now, JL, I think it was my father who first talked to me about it, and then I brought it to you, and you said, "Yeah, I heard about it." So I talked to you first about this, about this accident that happened on the set of Rust. Now, funnily enough, like a couple of days before on the Weekend Horror podcast, we were talking about The Crow.
Yeah.
Which to me, it was just weird. It was really surreal because we had just talked about that accident, and how that played a role in the filming of The Crow and the popularity and the success of The Crow. Not to say that it was a bad movie, and just, you know what I mean? That those types of things definitely help boost the visibility, so to speak. But this is a different instance altogether. They were early-ish in the shooting of the film. So there are a lot of people out there who seem to think that Alec Baldwin is not solely responsible, but bears a brunt of the responsibility for this shooting. Now, the reason why I wanted to bring you guys on is because you guys you've both been in the film industry. Eugene as a director, producer, JL as an actor, producer, writer. I wanted to speak with you guys because, I mean, cursory knowledge of being in the limited capacity in the film industry that I've been in, I know that ever since that Brandon Lee incident, there have been strict rules about who is allowed to touch firearms and who is not allowed to touch firearms, right? There's one, as I understand it, you have a prop master and then you have an armorer. That armorer is solely responsible for the safety of those firearms on set, correct?
Yes.
Yes, the armorer and the armorer's crew are the only ones who are essentially allowed to handle and check out and check in weaponry, and they handle all clearing of the weapons and determining when particular ones are made, what they're meant to be loaded with, and all of this is set in pre-planning. So all of this is pre-planned going in, so that every single day for every single shot, every scene, no matter what is filming, we know exactly what we're doing, and then they go out and then that's all like today. This is what weapons are going out. This is what we're loading with, and or not loading, so on and so forth. And it is, and while there's a crew, the armorer has their own crew. Usually it's a company that provides those employees. But ultimately it is the armorer, the production armorer, that signs off on everything. So that individual is saying, they're like a quartermaster.
That's the last person who,
yes,
that's where the buck stops, correct?
The buck stops with the armorer and the handling of the weapons. But this is what makes this situation so complicated, is because the armorer was not on set, and the individuals who are legally signed off to handle this particular responsibility were not there. And that's what complicates the situation incredibly, right? Because, I mean, obviously there were reports of things going on, like multiple misfires going on in the set before this event took place. And then, of course, when the people who were not there were supposed to be there to do these things, especially in this scene when, you supposedly have firing going on, whether it's live or whether it's blanks or whatever.
Right.
The armor should have been there from the get-go, watching every move. And
now, as I understand it, whenever from what I've read, and I read an article last night about it, that like the most up-to-date version of what happened. And Eugene, I want to kind of get your opinion on this as well. But as I understand it, what happened is they took a break for, it was either lunch or they took a break from filming for something. And before they had left, the armorer did sign off on cold firearms, but there was some sort of pre-rehearsal. There was a rehearsal that was going on, and the armorer wasn't back yet to I guess do a secondary or another check on the firearm. The producers, the director, and everybody else on set just went with the fact that it was a cold firearm for a rehearsal walkthrough. So Alec Baldwin was trusting the people that were there that are supposed to be held responsible for this, that this was a cold firearm.
Well, see, right there, that's your first mistake. When I did 4 years in the Marine Corps, and one of the big things we talk about is weapon safety. I mean, we have
I hate to interrupt you there, but aren't we comparing? I mean, I like the Marine Corps. I understand, like military, that those types of firearms trainings, absolutely 100% understand where people are coming from on that aspect, right? But as Alec Baldwin isn't a Marine, this isn't the military, and again with the firearm safety rules that have been pushed in Hollywood since that Brandon Lee incident, isn't this a little bit of a different situation?
Well, it's with the whole thing is the reason I wanted to bring that up is because I do this whenever I teach people handling weapons. Is you never ever trust what someone says. You always assume a weapon's loaded unless you either clear it yourself or it's visually cleared in front of you. I don't care who you are at all whatsoever. You show it to me, or I'm going to check and clear it myself. And this is why a lot of times on movie sets, you'll have actors go through a lot of weapons training. They go to the range. It's not just, for stylized, cool stuff like Keanu Reeves in John Wick, but it's also how do you properly handle it? Because when they're going out to the range, they're doing brass checks. They're going through all those safety procedures on it. And so right off the bat, just accepting this is a cold gun and not checking it, he may not have known, but the same thing, that's poor training on whoever is supposed to train, say the armorer or the assistant director. That is poor safety training on that.
Yes, that's what, and see, this is what boggles my mind, is because you have multiple people in this movie who have long histories of the work that they do, like the productions that they work on are weapons heavy. Alec Baldwin, for all of his, he is an actor, but Alec Baldwin has done many an action film that involves a lot of weapons. The process it should essentially be the same when you're dealing with armorers. Armorers have a specific job to do, and that is what they're brought on set to do. The companies themselves have standards that they uphold. If they don't uphold them, they don't get hired by production companies. That's just the way it is. So safety is their number one priority. For example, another actor who was on the set, Jensen Ackles, said that in an interview that he was giving at one of the conventions he was doing for Supernatural, Jensen Ackles was saying that he got a really bad sense that the armorer was not up to snuff for this production, and he took it upon himself to do his own clearance, because 15 years on Supernatural, there's guns in his hand every single episode. So he knows weapons. He and Jared Padalecki, everybody on that show, knows weapons very, very well. So 15 years straight of doing that, he knows the procedures that you go through. And he got the feeling that he's like, you know what? I'm going to handle this myself, and I will clear these things to make sure that they're okay, because this seems pretty roughshod, kind of like, off the seat of our pants kind of movie making here. So like, screw it. I'm going to be safe on the terms that I know. So he took it upon himself. Alec could have also done the exact same thing, but I can't speak to his position, because
maybe the process has worked for him in the past 15, 20 or 30, or even I forget how long he's been doing this. Been doing this for a long time, right? Maybe the process in the past has always been, I've trusted the armorer on set. I've trusted the people whom I've hired to do their job correctly. And, he asked, hey, this is a cold firearm. He was told this is a cold, they were told cold firearms on set. The director, the DP who tragically lost her life, a lot of people, they were told cold firearms. And he's trusted his people in the past before. Excuse me. So why wouldn't we look at this as a situation where Alec Baldwin is trusting his people? By the way, we have a new member. Colony L3 is a new member to the Plot Hole crew. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that goes back to what Eugene was talking about. You never ever assume that a weapon handed to you is clear until you have seen it cleared yourself, until you have seen it cleared or cleared it yourself. And because even then, when you're being handed a weapon, you are, like, as an actor, the way I've experienced when weapons have been handed to me is that we're standing there, and that the armorer will come to us with the weapons that we are utilizing with their assistance. They will clear the weapons there in front of us and then hand the weapon to us for the shot. We do the scene, we hear cut, the armorer immediately comes over and collects the weapons from us and checks them back in, because we're not just going to leave guns hanging around in people's hands when they don't need to be in people's hands. It's just the way it is. Not to mention, guns are expensive, and actors tend to drop them and do shit to them. So they'll come and collect because that's their gear. They're going to come and take
absolutely
them and put them away.
Well, but here's the thing. I think we need to make some definitions really quick. So when we're talking about cold gun, as I understand it, a cold gun is not just a firearm with no rounds in it. From what I understand, a cold gun is a dummy or prop gun, correct?
No, it's a cold gun. It's just a gun that's just not loaded.
Yeah,
So,
this is unloaded firearm.
Yeah, that's it. It could be an actual functioning real weapon that's just not loaded.
And Charlie Welch, I will have to say that Donald Trump Jr. is a piece of shit if he really is putting that shit out there. Fuck Donald Trump Jr. That this is not cool. You don't capitalize off of the death of somebody.
It's unbelievable the number of, I mean, just in like the following days, the number of memes I've seen on Facebook, and Twitter's expected. Twitter is cancer, but then on Facebook and Instagram, the number of memes that are going up about the situation with making fun of Alec Baldwin, or mostly it's about making fun of him. And then, of course, completely ignoring the fact that a young woman, a young, very talented, up-and-coming cinematographer and DP lost her life in this, and that the director himself was put into critical condition as a result of this accident. And I have not heard yet what his status is. I'm assuming he's okay, or he's coming through.
I think he's still in critical, but he's stable.
Damn.
Oh no! I don't.
And so there was a question about why there was a loaded firearm on set. That's another question that people ask a lot, right? Well, why do they need to fire real firearms? And from as I understand it, and Eugene, again, this will be directed at you as well, or probably the blunt of this one, because we're talking about something in realism, right? We want to look at the realism of a particular scene, and especially with special effects nowadays. I mean, I've got a program where I can just drag and drop muzzle fire into firearms, right? After Effects that shit in. Nobody really be able to tell the difference. But the problem is when you're going for something real, it's the recoil, the actual real muzzle fire coming from, you know what I mean? It's more of a realistic look. And that's the reason why they'll use usually blanks or, what they will consider non-lethal rounds in loaded firearms.
And that's a whole reason why they'll use real weapons on it. It's because it's the recoil. It's easier for the actors. You get the brass casings that come out. It looks real. It feels real. And there's a certain, you can use some kind of airsoft, or you can use some CO2 powered ones, but they just doesn't look the way it is. And the thing is we've had all these safety precautions in place to prevent stuff like this happening. I mean, this is something that is extremely rare, but it's the fact of negligence, because you talk about with Jensen Ackles, he didn't even feel safe dealing with the armor that he had to clear weapons himself. Now, this is nothing on Jensen Ackles, nothing on him at all, whatever on that, but that should tell you the condition of the production. If I'm directing a film and an actor comes up to me and is like, I don't feel safe the way the armor, I'm getting new armor. Just fired. There's no like, well, let me talk to them. No, you're out, you're done. Right. And the fact that it was above their head, they didn't know what they're doing, they're in over their head. They already had, I think it's like 3 negligent discharges. Or
you already had reports of the armorer who was new now, which is wild, because the armorer they had on set, she was 23 years old, and she is the daughter of a famous armorer in Hollywood who's been doing this for decades. And she had gotten into the business herself. She was running production herself, and then of course, even she was on, even she had second thoughts about it. It's like she wasn't sure that she was prepared to do this. And this was, I believe, was her second one. And then, of course, the first one went smoothly. Everything was great. So this was, she was on set again, and even she was inexperienced, and you could tell. So it's just, and the reason the first one went, I found out reading about it later. The reason the first production she was on went so smoothly is because she relied very heavily on her father to get everything done. And so essentially he was doing it under her name. And then she tried to run this one solo. And of course, there's just mistakes and mishaps happening all over the place. Multiple discharges, as you were talking about, reports of people walking off, like crew walking off because of the unsafe conditions. That I don't know why I do know why
so
the
we're going to get to that.
We're going to get to the. Yeah, I do know why they didn't pull the plug on this. I mean, it's messed up, but I know why they didn't pull the plug.
Right.
So.
Stephen Alley says a trigger was not pulled as part of a scene. Now, from what I've read, and this is only what I've read, that the reason why the accidental discharge, it was part of, they were blocking for a particular scene where Baldwin was supposed to pull his revolver, and he was aiming it at well, not necessarily directly at the camera because that's not supposed to be done, right? That's not supposed to be done if there are hot firearms, correct? Like the only time you're allowed to point a gun at a camera or camera crew in this instance is if it's cold firearm, correct?
Well, he was going
Or
yeah,
dummy
he,
or
and
dummy
he was,
firearm.
and he was going through rehearsal, is what he was
Right.
doing. He was rehearsing the scene.
Yeah, he was. He was actually practicing cross drawing on it. I was reading this just earlier today. So he was practicing the cross draw as they were kind of framing up for the shot. Now, in terms of shooting a scene with someone shooting at the camera, usually it's like a plexiglass, and you can do anything remote on a camera. The remote follow focus, remote tilts dollies there, so no one's next to the camera while a blank is going off. But this is just rehearsal, cross draw, and you have somebody who you naturally want to put your finger on the trigger, and it's a Western film, so I'm assuming they use maybe something like a Colt 45, which safeties
it was
were
a
difficult.
revolver. Yeah.
I don't know if Colt 45s had safeties. I don't know. If somebody does, let me know.
They don't.
So he just
no bullets in it. That's the only safety they have.
Yeah, no bullet. Yeah, no bullet. That's it. It's
the weaponry, they use on the set of Tombstone, like those old like peacemakers didn't have that kind of functionality.
Right. See, I have two dummy firearms that look. I mean, they're as real gas. The only thing we'd have to do is bore out the barrel and then change the cylinder. That's it. That is it. But they look the part. They won't fire, obviously. Thank you for that $2 there, Stephen Nally. Robert Castle says, "How the fuck did real ammo get on set?" Well, it wasn't necessarily a real bullet. Same thing happened with Brandon Lee, right? There was a piece that was lodged in a firearm that became a projectile, became a bullet. So
when the blank behind it it was nobody cleared the barrel, so nobody cleared that gun, and that piece of cartridge was left in the barrel of the gun. So when the blank behind it fired, when actor Michael Massey fired that weapon in another scene, which I think was like a day later, pulled the trigger on that, and you turned that projectile into an actual bullet, and it was a close range, which is why it killed Brandon Lee. Robert Castle asked, "What is blocking?" Blocking is technically a production term when actors are practicing their motions, so that when they're shooting, or even in theater, is the movements that you make in the scene. So my blocking would be like I'm in the scene, and then I stand up and I cross over here to this point, hit this mark, and then another person will cross over and hit another mark, and those marks are marked on the ground so that people can see where they're at. So
basically,
the practicing of that is blocking. Yeah.
So anytime you watch a film or watch a play and people are moving, like they move from one place to the next, or there's an action or whatever, that goes through a specific blocking process. Even me throwing somebody out of a bar for a mere 2 seconds of a film went through 30 to 45 minutes of blocking, of run through.
Yeah, before just to get the motion, because you want to time it with the camera, make sure the camera knows what's going on, make sure all the actors know, and especially on something that could be real tricky. Like, for example, I mean, you were throwing art out of a bar, a lot of moving parts. How are they going to get to the door? What order they're going to get through? That's all called blocking. That's all figured out.
Right. And it's an integral part. That's part of that safety process. The other part of the safety process is making sure that your people actually do the things that they're supposed to be doing. And so let's get to the other big piece of this. Colleen says, one story I heard said there might have been a pebble in the barrel. It's a couple different. Yeah, there are a couple different things they said that could have happened.
Well, the one that's most distressing, and I don't even know what this is what Aaron Reese was saying there. It was supposedly an actual bullet. Crew members were using the guns for target practice when they were not filming. And if that is what was going on, what the fuck?
Yeah,
like,
I
don't even get that. Like, how is that even a thing? I mean, I was appalled when I heard that. I don't know about you, Eugene.
It's if they use, like I said, I don't know if it's confirmed, but I heard rumors. If they were using that for target practice, I will tell you right now, if that was my set and I saw people do that, I would fire every single one of them on the spot.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't care what your job is.
Just like,
I don't care. Get off my set.
Yep.
I wouldn't even know how to respond. It's like, that's so beyond the pale of unprofessional and dangerous. It's like, you're at work.
Mhm.
You don't fire guns when you're at work just because you're in between takes and you got nothing to do. It's
Yep.
like, what are you doing? And that blew my mind. If that actually happened, because I know they're currently doing an investigation, and if that actually happened, I'm like blown away. Like it's like what
yeah, that just boggles my mind, because that's the reason I heard. Again, this is all hearsay, so none of it's been confirmed, but this is the reason why Todd Riverdine, that movie's done. He says if they don't cancel the movie at this point due to safety issues, then I don't know, it jumped on me. Then I don't know what we're going to shut down at this point. So we're going to get to that particular issue here in just a second. But yeah, that movie's finished. If I doubt they're going to make any.
Never.
Yeah, I doubt we're going to see that film ever. But from what I understand, that was one of the reasons why they were having accidental discharges earlier was because they were using firearms for, hey, we're out here in the middle of the desert, or not the desert necessarily, but they were in Santa Fe, outside of Santa Fe, and come on, let's just pop off a few rounds of some tin cans or do some target practice or have some fun. Yeah, that's just absolutely no way, never.
ridiculous.
If you're shooting a romance and there are no firearms involved in the film, I might think that it would be all right, cool. If you're doing that, whatever, I could probably, but the simple fact is you're shooting a Western, there are firearms on set, and you're taking pot shots at soda cans and beer cans because exactly. There's no good fucking reason.
There's no reason for it. I love shooting guns. You go to a range, you shoot at a place where it's designated to. There is no reason on set. When we were doing Black Clown, we had a prop knife, and the assistant director pulled out at the safety meeting, this is the prop knife. It was all springy, and she went up to every crew member, goes, this is the prop knife. This is what it feels like. If you have a knife that looks like this knife, you need to go return it. This is a black knife. If you have a green, blue, whatever, you're fine. But if you have a black pocket knife, you will not be allowed to have it on set so that it is not confused with anything else.
Yeah, because that's equally as dangerous.
It is. And especially with a stabbing scene that we had.
Right. I just don't understand why. Well, I do. So here's the thing, right? So this whole set was plagued from the beginning with just issue after issue after issue. As I understand it, it was a small budget film. Excuse me. It was a small budget film, but small budget. Still a couple $1 million into this thing.
They were financed enough to pay SAG, right? SAG wages. So I mean, it was low budget. It was low budget. $1 million is low budget. So
right, that's the thing that people need to understand. I think low budget indie film, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's three assholes that you see on screen right now. Fucking running around with a GoPro. No, that's not. I mean, yes, that is low budget. Yes, that is indie, but that's not necessarily what that means. So. Again, one of the things that I've been reading, that the crew walked off set simply because they were, working 12 to 16-hour shifts or 16-hour days with very little breaks. They were originally told that the production would put them up in hotels in Santa Fe, but they were actually having to stay in Albuquerque instead, which is a good 45 minutes to an hour and a half of drive away. So they were, 12-hour days and then driving 2.5, 3 hours every single day after, get up early to drive hour and a half to go to work 12 hours, turn around, drive an hour and a half back. How much sleep are you really getting?
And this is actually being an issue because the union that does a lot of the below the line people is called the IATSE on it. And they do film, they do theater, they do just various things of entertainment. And so the IATSE has actually been trying to have negotiations with producers like with Netflix, HBO, all those other places about working conditions, because you have crew members that are working 18 hours a day with no meal breaks. Right. And this is the thing. So you're entitled, you can work up to 12 hours. After 12 hours, you get double pay. And the production can pay a penalty if they want you to go through, say, a meal. You're supposed to get 1 hour for a meal. And if they don't provide you the hour, they just pay you extra. Well, the budgets on some of these have been so inflated, they just pay it. They just don't care.
See, I just don't get that.
Well, the fine is cheaper than paying out the overtime.
Yeah.
No, I understand that, right? So there's part of the reason why that that there are certain things that need to happen differently in this industry. There need to be different safeguards for workers because, I mean, if you think about it, how many camera crews operate in Hollywood? Hundreds, if not thousands.
The thousands. Well, see,
right?
this is weird. This is weird because I've worked union on gigs, and whenever when I was working union, there was a union rep there, who was now this was for equity, and so it was when I was doing theater, and the equity rep was there and ensured that we started at a specific time, that we got lunch at a time, didn't matter what was going on. Production halted, and all the union people and all of us got to go eat. And then we get our 1 hour, we come back, we start on time, and then it wasn't matter if we were in the middle of a scene, it wasn't matter if it was like we need to do one more run or something of that nature. It was boom, like bam, we stop. It's like that's it right there. And then of course, if we don't, then it's logged that we get the additional pay.
So as I understand it, right? As I understand it, and I want to. There's a Todd Riverdine. I want to get to your comments, so don't let me forget. But as I understand it, in the SAG or any kind of union production on this, let's say that you're scheduled to work a 12-hour day, and after hour 6, let's say at noon, you start at 6 in the morning, and at noon you are to break for an hour, and you're shooting at 11:55. That goes over, say the shot finishes at 12:04. That right there puts them into that penalty, right? Where they have to pay, even if you go to lunch at 12:04, because you're 4 minutes into my 1 hour break, I get that penalty, or the production has to pay that penalty.
You pay. That's right.
That's it.
So
at
that's
12:01. That's
right. That's the thing. Maybe there needs to be some adjustments to that sort of thing to discourage. Well, if I'm going to pay the fine regardless, I'm just keeping for the whole hour.
Well, that was the mess of it, from what I understand. It wasn't so much that there were some safety concerns as well from a lot of the crew, but the reason people were walking off was because of not just the driving conditions, but there was also a matter that the production was not willing to pay union, going over going overtime. It's like, so they weren't going to keep them. So they would literally get to a point where they were shooting, and then they would just force the union off the set. They'd be like, "You guys are done. Go. You're gone." And then they would continue with whoever they could get their hands on,
non-union workers,
with non-union workers who are not professionals in the industry and in the areas that they needed them on. So essentially, getting day laborers to come in and do to do this work that they're not union rep to do, and that they don't have union protections when they're doing them. And it's the easiest way. I mean, it's shitty. It's shady as hell, and it's dangerous, especially on a Western when you have firearms and you have all these kind of scenarios you're working with.
Any kind of movie that's going to have any kind of stunt, any movie,
this is one of the darker
paid professionals.
This is one of the darker sides of shooting movies. Because you're watching every single dollar, and everybody's got money in the it's an investment. It's an investment of time, energy, and money, and of course, and resources. And so people are going to be watching their dimes, make sure that they get that ROI. And when it starts getting really, really tight, it's not like not every production, not every director can just go to the studio and get more money. Cameron can go and just get more money. He's like, I'm James Cameron.
I'm James Cameron.
Because I'm James Cameron. I need more money. I'll just go get more money because I'm fucking James Cameron.
Because I'm James Cameron.
It's not
somebody's going to give me money.
But like this one is like, no, you have a set budget, and that's it. We're not upping you for some, probably straight to DVD or streaming Western that Alec Baldwin is in.
Yeah, this wasn't going to be. And this was Alec Baldwin back in the late 80s, early 90s, maybe, right? Because his star was a little more polished, he was a little more popular, and he did he did good movies like The Hunt for Red October, and but yeah. So Todd says, I feel bad for Alec. He just killed, accidental or not. It was an accident. It was an accident. An innocent person. I can't even begin to understand how that had to hit someone. Yeah. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, Alec Baldwin wasn't maliciously trying to do anything to anybody. All he was trying to do was create a good movie. And because of negligence all over the place, because of negligence across the board, some of which I do think that Alec Baldwin, being a producer, is responsible for.
Absolutely. And this is in terms of him pulling the trigger and killing somebody, partial blame. When it comes
See,
to
I don't think he like pulled the gun and then intentionally pulled the trigger. I think when as he was pulling the firearm, I think it was an accident, excuse me, an accidental discharge.
And that's why I say partial. I say partial. Someone said cold. The exact partial, I don't know. I don't have like a percentage number. But in terms of the working conditions that set up this accident, I do hold him responsible for that because of the amount of negligence.
Part of the conditions, right?
There's
going on.
Determining. I mean, that's what's so complicated about the situation is like trying to determine who is liable, who is not liable, and what partial liability falls on somebody. The question is, is anybody going to be criminally liable in this? In my opinion, someone should be, but for negligence at minimum. But most likely there won't be criminal charges, but there will be heavy civil liability on this.
Yes,
and
of course, with Alec Baldwin being the biggest name attached to it, they're going to go after him pretty hard.
And I can guarantee you, this armor, she will never work again.
No,
never.
No.
Yeah, she will never. That's it. Her career is done. And I don't know why when she was not going to be on set, why she did not have full control of those weapons. It's legit. Technically, from what I understand from my experience, when the armor is not there, number one, the guns aren't there either because the guns go with the armor.
They're supposed to be locked up.
Yeah, the guns. Well, the guns go with the armor. The armor doesn't just leave weaponry lying around, even locked up, because someone can come along and could break into your shit and steal your guns.
Right.
And so
there's a reasonable amount of safety measures that somebody's going to go through, because you got to think about it this way. If you're working a big like Civil War piece or a big like big huge army fighting, battle scene, there are hundreds of guns on there. Well, yeah, okay.
Yeah, like the Patriot. Or if you want to do a really particularly violent one, look at The Quick and the Dead. Sam Raimi film, and you have a gun specifically about people shooting people. So,
right. No. Right. So, but the point is, I mean, there's a reasonable amount that they can lock their fire. Because you see a thing, that's hundreds of firearms. They're not going to be like, oh, I got to take this to McDonald's when we want to get my lunch. Roll up into McDonald's with my 100 firearms. Hey guys, I do, and give them a Big Mac. Oh, yes, sir.
The thing is, it would be just like Gear Watch. It would be like anything else. Sure. On a big war film, you probably have multiple armors that are working together, and they just go in shifts. So
they'll have like divisible units that they function on. That you guys are handling these guys. These guys you report, and then the individuals who are part of the armies will be instructed by the handlers, who's ever handling them. You will report to this trailer at this time. This is this armor. This person will be handling you, and so they don't overwhelm everybody. Right, and everything is broken down into pieces.
But your head armor, at the end of the day, your head armor is responsible for all firearms.
Yes.
Period. And that comes from that Brandon Lee incident, where because there were so many people had so many different hands on those firearms, there was I think it was checked. So-and-so said it was checked. All right, cool. So this person said it was checked. Well, this person said it was checked. There's so many different things, so many things that went wrong with that. Yes, it was checked. And that's all. And the same thing with Baldwin. That's all he heard is he had cold firearm.
And this is why with her being over her head, she was probably intimidated because you have Alec Baldwin and a couple other big names on the set. She's probably intimidated, and she may not have had like the confidence to go to producers and be like, I am the only one that needs to be able to touch these weapons. People need to wait for me. This is the safety procedures.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. At her job, she should be looking at the director saying, nobody touches these nobody but me hands firearms to actors or performers, period. Period. You don't pick it up. I don't want the assistant director. I don't want fucking prop master. I don't want anybody other than me. I will be the one who hands firearms out. That's the way. I mean, that's the way it should be done. So Todd Riverdine says, question, is it standard practice for an actor to double check a weapon to make sure it's cold or whatnot? Or do they just completely trust the one who handed it to them? Again, because as I understand it,
the ones who are well-trained in firearm safety, check their weapons.
It should be. Yeah. If it's not, it should be.
Yeah, the ones that are well-trained in firearm safety, and you can always tell that no matter what, like, and if you watch, the number one thing is the finger. If the finger's not on the trigger, no matter what's going on, if you see the finger, even in like a scene when the gun is not the focus of it, you can see their finger off the trigger, like
Right.
resting on the gun. If you see that, that's a hallmark of being well trained, of dealing
Right.
with weaponry on a daily basis. And a good, well trained actor will check their shit before they hear action. They'll do a quick double check just to see what's going on, to see what they have in their hand, and make sure everything is kosher. Because you can always be like, whoa, you get the armor over here. We need to look at something. This looks funky. Let's check this. And no production is going to have a problem with that because you may have to save someone's life. So
Absolutely.
Aaron Reese says Baldwin is anti-Second Amendment, though. I'm not sure he's anti-Second Amendment. I think he's more pro reasonable restrictions. I don't want to get into the politics of it all, and I don't think that really. I don't think his personal stance on firearms should be I don't think that really matters so much when we're talking about safety issue. If you're anti-firearms or not, you should it
has no bearing.
It should have no bearing on it, right? So safety protocols should be safety protocols.
By the way, Johnny, I sent you a picture of a scene that was really that scene of Gary Oldman from The Professional, because it always got me when he was aiming that gun up there, and it was like you can see the hollow points
right
in the chamber of that revolver. Now they most likely were probably dead hollow points just for the look, but that's why you may find ammunition on a set in order to get like a good looking scene like that. But most likely, if you were to pop that the cylinder out, there'd be nothing in those. It would literally just be the front of the bullet with no
powder,
nothing. It was just literally just the casing with the hollow.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Aaron Reese says, I just meant that he's not working outside of work with firearms, so he's not going to have a deep comfort level. So he might trust and that's really good point there with him being, not necessarily a gun enthusiast. He is going to be more, hey, I don't trust myself with the safety of this firearm. That's why I'm trusting the armorer to do their job. You know what I mean? You tell me you're handing me a cold firearm. I trust you because I think you're better at this than I am. I trust your expertise over my, lack thereof. So yeah, that is a good point. Robert Casal, the producer, didn't get shot. It was the director of photography, the cinematographer, and the director.
But see, this goes back to my point of the armorer should have been the one instructing on that. And
yes.
I will tell you on my set, any kind of weapon, the actors will know how to clear weapon and be comfortable. You go to gun range with the weapons that you're actually going to be firing, and you can learn all the safety protocols. It can take you one day at the range. We go through it. Everybody knows, and your comfort level will skyrocket after that.
Right.
It also depends upon the level of involvement you have, because we did that. I mean, I did a short film where we had one scene in it where we had weapons in our hands, and they never actually even shot us firing them. We just held them. And even then, for that one short film that we did, the director took us out with the armor to the range so that we would see the weapons that we had. We would get the feel for them, know what they felt like, understand, like that. And that was pretty much it. He just wanted to familiarize us with, so that when the armorer comes along and says, boom, here's a big ass gun, I got this 357 in my hand, I know what I'm doing with the 357. So that
should be standard practice. I think that's another thing that should be, part of the whole rules. If you're going to be doing a firearm heavy, or even if you're going to have any kind of firearm stunts, period, there needs to be a certain amount of hours that your actors or your performers who are using firearms put in with your armorer to make sure they have at least a basic level of safe handling, especially if you're going to be, now if they just walk around with dummy guns, whatever, you know what I mean? That's a lot of people don't realize, is that your prop master or your armorer should have live weapons and dummy weapons. Dummy weapons, you'll see like the cop movies where the cops are running around with their guns in the holsters, unless they actually pull it. Unless they're actually pulling it with the intention to fire it. If you got a scene where cops just pull the weapons, 9 times out of 10, those are going to be plastic weapons. They're going to be dummy weapons. They're all it is basically a nice painted piece of plastic. It's that toy firearm that we played with. That 9mm that we played with when we were kids that had the little orange tip.
Oh yeah.
They just color the tip in. That's exactly what it is. Less than that, but I think that we need to require that if there are going to be firearm stunts, that the performers spend a certain amount of time training to make sure they have a basic level of understanding of safety.
Hey, I mean, absolutely.
You've seen the intensity, the videos of the intensity of training they go through for the John Wick films.
Right.
And I've seen that video of Halle Berry and Keanu on the actual range firing actual weapons, running through the speed courses. And they
should.
Yeah, absolutely.
You should be firing actual weapons. That way you know how the weapon is going to react, what is supposed to happen when you pull that trigger, how you're going to react. It takes away that, oh my God. I don't know if you guys remember the first time you were fired a firearm or a rifle. There was that little bit of like anxious.
Oh yeah, there's kind of absolutely. Mike, I think the first weapon I ever fired was a double barrel shotgun.
Oh, you went
big. I didn't know what to expect. So I was kind of like,
fuck it.
So like, okay. they pretty much said, stock there, hold here, boom here, look down there, pull that trigger. And I was like,
yeah, exactly.
On that,
did JL get a haircut? I don't know. He didn't have very many hairs to cut.
Although I say I'm the only one who dyed his beard pink.
I dyed my beard pink like 16 times. I swear to God, the stuff that the lady sent me was terrible because every time I run through a moist room.
Why didn't you just use the Manic Panic?
Because I went to some place that didn't have Manic Panic and I got what the fucking experts, speaking of experts.
Why didn't you just go to Walmart, get some Manic Panic and they do it? Because now here it is, the month's almost over and I've been pink the entire month and I'm the only one who fucking did it.
That's not true. I have been pink the majority. I'll dye this pink again tomorrow.
Rodent No Last Name had a good question for Eugene. He said, I came in a little late. Sorry if this has been discussed. How did you all handle nail gun safety?
That's a good question. That's a good question because that is a
a typical weapon. Yeah,
it's not a typical weapon. So people don't think, hey, I need to have firearm safety, but that is it is a projectile weapon.
It is a weapon. So the gun that we used on nail gun was actually non-functioning. So it was a real, and this is the actual trick, and I may ruin it for somebody, but it was actually not a nail gun; it's a staple gun. So we didn't have any actual staples on set on it, and so there was nothing to ever load. And second of all, though it was hydraulic, the tank that we used on the back was empty also. So there's no way it could build up any kind of pneumatic pressure to fire anything.
It's movie magic.
Okay.
Movie magic.
It was. Aaron Reese says, go to Sally Beauty and get color conditioner to maintain the color. I did that. That's where I went.
I don't think you were serious about it. I don't really think you were serious about it.
I was serious. I did it for... Wait a minute. I wasn't serious? I wasn't serious?
You can still see mine, dude. Look at that.
Look
at that. Nice pink.
There's still some pink in there. There's a little bit. You just can't.
It looks like it. No, it doesn't. It looks like you're going gray.
Your mom's going gray. We've got a new member. Welcome, me.
Thank you, me.
Thank you, me. She is a part of the crew. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So yeah, there's a lot of. So many different things. And I was told to remind you that Limey Play went really pink. He dyed his whole hair pink. His whole top of it. He
took it seriously.
He did.
I did.
Go fuck your mother. Bastard. Anyway, so yeah, there are a lot of things that need to happen to better safety wise. I mean, this is Brandon Lee all over again. This is what was the other one? What was the one from? It was a 1987 where the actor was playing around. Well, playing around. So he was playing around on set and then shot himself with a blank, but it killed him because
he was 24. I saw a picture of him the other day. Yeah, and then then of course Twilight Zone, those types of accidents. Those are big things that have happened. And it seems like we're just destined to repeat ourselves because,
Well, there's one thing that made me, I was really, really aware of. Is
1984. Thank you, Mike.
Is that things like you don't hear about these all that often. You don't. because armorers, by and large, in the industry, are really, really professional and know what they're doing. Because these people, not just for professional reasons, because they want to stay in business. Nobody wants this. You're supposed to be making a movie. It's supposed to be fun.
It's pretend.
Making a movie. It's
make-believe,
pretend.
right.
You don't want someone getting killed just because you're trying to make a movie.
Or hurt.
Or any of this. Yes, people do stunts, is why we hire stunt people who professionally do these things. But the objective is not to get people hurt, and the objective is certainly not to get people killed. That's why armorers and weapons handlers and these people who do this, they take it extremely seriously, and safety is their priority. You don't hear this happening all the freaking time, which is why it's so screwed up when you do hear it. And when you do hear about it, immediately, like Eugene and I immediately had the reaction, how fucked up was that set that this went down on? Like, how bad was it? Yeah. Like, how bad was it? But for this to go down, how fucked up was that set? And apparently, just as we suspected, really, really, really fucked up. It was beyond atrocious. As an actor, I would have walked off that set. If shit like this was going on, I'd be like, no, I don't care. Now, even if I was crew, I'm a glutton for punishment. I would have made the drive an hour and a half. I've done that before. I've gone an hour to get to set, worked 10 hours, run, the gun an hour and done. I call it paying my dues. But if it's unsafe like this, I'm done. I'm not going to be there until they shore it up. And you can always call your union rep and be like, well, okay, look, it is wild out here. We got guns going off. We get people. This is
apparently they did.
I
Right?
can't
Somebody
be on
called.
the set. Yeah.
Apparently, somebody from union called the executive producers, the production house, and said, "Hey, what the fuck is going on?" And said, "We've had 3 accidental discharges," and the executive producer, the studio house, was like, "Yeah, we'll look into it." Like, okay, how well did that work out for you guys? It didn't.
Yeah, they just it didn't. This is, like I said, this is gross negligence at the most extreme level, because most films follow the proper procedures. That's why you never hear it when you have these huge movies.
Hang on a second. Let me ask you this, and this kind of goes with what Liam Wakefield here says. Consider how many films and how many rounds are shot. It must be a great safety record. Unfortunately, one screw up makes the news. I'm willing to bet that this is not the only time that safety protocols have been ignored on a film set.
Oh yeah, probably.
Oh
yeah, no. Absolutely. All that. I mean, you're just playing the odds,
right?
On that, but this is something that should never happen.
Exactly. This is one of those things that I think that the level of responsibility when it comes to these types of things needs to be. They've got to be heavy-handed. There has to be. I'd rather overreach. I would rather overreach than a couple of guys fucking firing off rounds on set. I mean, it's just so stupid.
See, this is interesting. What Colony put up, and the comment before that was Liam's comment, because Liam made the comment. Okay, so Colony said there have been at least 194 serious television and film set accidents in the U.S. from 1990 to 2014, and at least 43 deaths.
Right.
So, and that's across the board. That's not just firearm safety. That's
everything.
Yeah.
That's vehicle accidents. That's stunt accidents. All kinds of stuff. So that's 1990 to 2014. That's 24 years. 24 years of filmmaking. 194 serious accidents and at least 43 deaths in 24 years of filmmaking. So, considering how many movies get made per year, and like what Liam said, consider how many films and how many rounds are shot and all the stuff that you go through in an entire year of filmmaking across the board in all U.S. filmmaking is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah,
because Americans love violence. Guns are going to get fired in movies. People love it. So it's insane. It essentially, for the percentages, is an excellent safety record. It is, because armorers, their livelihood is banked on their safety records. That's what it is. Because if you're not safe, you're not going to get hired by a production company, because the insurance companies will not insure you. Mm-hmm. You will lose your license. You will lose your bond. Mm-hmm. You're done. You won't be working in the industry anymore. Just like, what's going to happen with this girl. And, essentially, and it was sad. What's really messed up is she probably tanked her father as well. Because if she was working under his name, no one's going to touch him again with a 10-foot pole, because they're not going to risk it.
Yeah. They don't want to be associated with her family in any way at all.
Well, with that accident, that's a big thing. Leslie Gutowski says, did you watch Brandon Herrera's video on this? I did not. If you have it, a link, send it to me, theplothole1@gmail.com. I would love to check that out. Up and Out says, hi all. Hello. Aaron Reese says, but how many went off but didn't hit people? On that set, 3, at least 3 reported. So yeah. Dave Patterson says, oh, come back here. The stunts are getting more dangerous. This is true. Well, I don't know.
Stunts are getting more. I will agree with that. Stunts are getting more dangerous because the technology to get more intricate shots is getting better. So now we can do more danger. We can essentially do crazier and wilder things in order to, because we have the technology to capture the shots that we want. One of the most intricate ones that blew my mind was what happened on the set of Resident Evil 6. It was like on the set of that film, there was a stunt woman who's essentially, her career is over because of the accident she was involved with. She was supposed to be doing the scene is she was riding a motorcycle at relatively high speeds. And in the movie, it's Mila Jovovich riding a motorcycle. And then she gets basically clotheslined off the motorcycle. It was like a trap. She got knocked off the cycle and she gets, the bad guys grab her. Well, the scene is this stunt woman is riding the motorcycle. She's doing her thing. She's been a stunt woman for, I think, the better part of 20 years. She knows what she's doing. She's on the bike. She's doing the scene, and somebody fucked up the timing, and she wound up getting clotheslined by a camera arm, by the steel arm that's because the camera wasn't moved out of the way in time because the timing was off, and so she literally drove at 70 miles an hour directly into a camera arm.
Lucky she didn't lose her fucking head.
She lost her arm. Her back is permanently screwed up. She will like most of her other arm was completely degloved. Her career is over. It's done. And it's because they had a new functioning camera arm that was able to get a sweeping kind of shot in there to get that really cool shot. So they can kind of up but
and that's the thing that kills me, right? We've got lenses and shit that you can still get that shot, but you don't have to be as close to the action.
No.
Aaron Reese says, go ahead, Eugene, go ahead.
And see, I was about to say the exact same thing on it. They had an incident over in Europe where they had a cam op he was either seriously injured or killed, I believe in Spain, where they were doing a car chase scene and a car chase crash. And the stunt coordinator was off, and he was like, "Hey, we're gonna film this tomorrow." Blah blah. And they decided, no, we're gonna go and let's go ahead and get this while stunt coordinator's gone. Coordinator had no idea; they just had the regular stunt people. And a car flipped over, and it seriously hurt or killed somebody. And when the stunt coordinator came out, found out they did the stunt, he was pissed off. Yeah. And they're like, whoa, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, there's a reason why I told you shouldn't put a camera right there.
Yeah, there's a reason why you fucking pay me to be the stunt coordinator, to be the guy who tells you the safest way to do this dangerous shit you're trying to fucking do.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that shit pisses me off. Aaron Reese, hang on a second. I wanted to bring this up because I know exactly what you're about to say. I know what you're going to say. Because 20 years ago, Aaron Reese says 20 years ago, you could forget setting an entire person on fire unless
you're Kane Hodder.
Yeah.
because Kane Hodder did that.
Light me on fire, motherfucker.
No. Was it 88? Or was it like 87? Or was it 86?
It was mid to late 80s. I think it was 86.
Because
Sketch Crasher for $2 says, hello, Johnny O, NJL and Eugene. Hello,
Sketch Crasher.
Good to see you. Thank you for that super chat. I appreciate
it. That was 88. Yeah, I was right. That was 1988 that Kane Hodder did the full body.
Was it 3 minutes?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was a little over 3 minutes, and suffered severe injuries doing it because that's what Kane Hodder does. Because Kane Hodder sacrificed himself for the play. Yep. He didn't fuck around.
Rotor last name says Prop Master turned down Russ because it was an accident waiting to happen. There were massive red flags. That's going to Neil W. Zormorski. Yeah, I believe it. I mean, obviously. And yeah, he said the poor bastard nearly died talking about Kane Hodder. That's true. He almost choked himself out. There's a reason why fire stunts are bad, because it's not just the burns, it's also lack of oxygen.
Yeah, you can't breathe. When you're doing a fire stunt, you can't breathe because the fire will go into your mouth.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times what they'll do is they'll do a count. This is going to last 20 seconds, and we will cut. Regardless of if we get it or not, we will cut in 20 seconds.
Yep.
So when they light the fire, you will have a counter counting it down so they know exactly where they're at time wise.
But Kane Hodder is just that awesome.
Yeah.
Kane
that's
Hodder
just
was
what it
just
is.
that stupid. Okay.
Hey, I mean, I got to give to him. I mean, I would be like, how do you insure a guy like this? Is like, what do you do?
Can't. That's the thing. You can't insure a Kane Hodder. That's one of the reasons why Tom Cruise had a little bit of difficulty getting his films.
Well, that's Cruise because Cruise wants to strap himself to the side of airplanes when they're taking off. Not even Jackie Chan has done that. So, and Jackie Chan has to insure himself. He had to make his own insurance company to insure him because of the insanity of his stunts. But I mean, there are.
You saw that one where he slid. Was it? I forget which one it was. It was earlier in his career. We slid down the fucking roof of a building.
I mean,
and that's when we broke his ankle. But
I've seen a bunch of his stuff. I know that he has a permanent hole in his head from one of the stunts that he's done. That has to be that he has a plug that he has to stick in because of the damage that he's taken. But I know that because it's like, but there are insurance companies that specifically deal in insuring stuntmen and stunt women and protecting them for that. And it's extremely costly. But that's because stunt people get paid a lot of money to do what they do. But yeah, at a certain point they just won't. We can't insure you because you're gonna die because you're gonna strap yourself to the side of a fucking plane and then ride it on takeoff multiple times because you're a lunatic, Tom.
Stephen Alley says, I always liked Jackie Chan stunts because they're way more realistic. That's because they're real.
Because they're real.
Like, they're just 100%. Like,
because he's fucking himself up when he does that shit. Have you seen the outtakes at the end of the movie? Oh, I'm fucked up.
Jackie always okay.
I'm good. I'll make it through.
Yeah, until I saw them cart him off set with a friggin' neck brace on his stretcher, going
Yeah. I don't know. I complain about my injuries, and I'm only 40 and I'm overweight. But that's part of the problem. But still, I know how I ache in the morning, and he's got to be in his late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah. Yes, where he skis off a jump and grabs the skid of a helicopter.
Yep.
He literally came off and grabbed the skid of a helicopter because he's a nut job. He's insane.
And I mean, the thing is when you look at stunts, you have Jackie Chan, who probably is working for some of the best stunt coordinators at the time. And
he
still happen.
That's his company. That's his. That is the stunt company. It's his company. Those are all his people. Whenever you watch a Jackie Chan film, like, hey, that guy's in that film. Those are all. He has like 20 people he always works with. They're in every single one of his films. And that's his company. They travel with him. So if he's gonna do fucking Rush Hour 15, and there's gonna be a fight with him and Chris Tucker, that's his crew. It's the same
people. Yeah,
because they've worked together for so long. They know each other's quirks. They know everything.
And it's even with you have the people you've worked with, like you have your go-to team. After all the amount of practice and preparations, accidents still happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's what comes down to it. I mean, that we can actually circle this back around to the Rust production. Is that it's if you remember, and the very first video I did for YouTube when I was completely defecating all over J.M. Truth's Superman movie, is that it's about planning. And the biggest thing, and I repeated it so many times, I know people were probably annoyed by it, but if you want to be a filmmaker, it's about preparation. It's about planning. It's planning every single shot. It's essentially not just like storyboarding what you want to do. It's like going through every single one. Like, this is what we're going to do. This way, like that. So that way your production stays on time, stays within budget. And even if you are funding the whole thing yourself, I got $1,000. I'm going to make a movie. You go do that.
Yeah.
But learn how to do this. Plan everything so you can maybe come in under that $1,000. Plan everything out. Budget everything out. This is how you make a movie, and you come in under budget. And you actually maximize the things that you're able to stretch that dollar out.
Yeah.
This is excellent practice for when someone is willing to pay you to do these things. And the level of planning I've seen on productions is, the ones that I've worked on has been absolutely insane. Even in small short films has been absolutely crazy. I have spent more time as an actor standing around on set as because everything was planned out and they've got to set it up. So it's like, yeah, well, we got this done. We're done here. Everybody cut. Now go over there and sit on your ass for the next hour and a half while we get everything set up for the next thing because we had this all planned out. And then you walk over here, boom, give 2 takes. Now walk the fuck over there, stand around and do nothing. I've spent more time standing around as an actor than I have actually acting.
Yeah.
You know, on a film set. You know, I've done more work in theater than I've done actual work in theater than I did on an actual movie set. But that's because things are planned.
We talk about preparation.
There you go.
Nail Gun director's book has all full of documents, all color coded. So every shot, every prop, everything was meticulously planned out ahead of time on that. And
you know, that's what you're used to. And you hear
but
about
the
something
point,
like this,
the point of what you're
that was
saying is
not what was happening on this set.
Well, that wasn't what it was happening specifically with firearm safety. Absolutely.
But I understand it was none of it.
Well,
there were times when people don't know what's going on. It's like,
but that's not necessarily new. That's not something that's different. That's happened on a lot of sets where they're talking about, well, you know, we were getting, what was it they were talking about? Was it Jason X where they were getting like new copies of the script as they were shooting? Like they would show up not knowing what they were going to.
But production shoots, I mean, you still plan them. And, you know, that can extend out your production and make your production long. But if you've already got your stages, if you already got your sets built, which essentially that's what it was. So you have your sets built, then you have your people in costumes. That makes it a lot easier because you just have people running around prefab sets is all you're doing that. And then, of course, and then there's, you know, the guns are fucking like futuristic ray guns. It's going to be After Effects. It's not like the thing takes bullets. It's like, here, you have the styrofoam gun that we made you make like you're shooting at something or something.
Make the noise to go pew, pew,
exactly.
pew, pew.
But see, what I'm actually curious about is because you had this woman who was so inexperienced, and you already had some other people turn this down. No one's looking for the least experienced person, especially for an armored job.
Not on that. Yeah, not with and that's the thing. I think that needs to be addressed is that, you know, to be an armorer, to actually work as an armorer on a Hollywood or any production, you need to have this many hours of study underneath an armorer. So you know what I mean? There needs to be that type of regulation. I always hate to use that word.
And what basically is there have to be if other armorers are turning a production down, that is already a red flag.
Gigantic red flag.
Yeah, no, don't even touch it. Yeah. Ronan No Less Name made an interesting statement there. Is like, and this is what's interesting because a lot of people were saying that there's culpability on Baldwin's hands because he was a producer on this film. Okay, this is the problem. This is an actual issue that I personally have, and it's not shared by a lot of people. An issue I have of wearing multiple hats on a set is because when you wear multiple hats on a set, like say you pull a Kevin Costner and you want to write the thing, you want to direct the thing, you're producing the thing, and you are starring in it.
Right.
There's an inherent problem in that because when you are directing, then you have a specific function and you have a specific function. And if you are acting and you don't have someone you trust as a director, essentially you may be directing yourself. But the more hats you wear, the more complicated things become because you need to make sure that these like I's are dotted and T's are crossed as a producer. But you're trying to act at the exact same time and then think about the shot from a director standpoint as well. This becomes extremely complicated. And you can tell that usually comes out in the production. At the final, you look at Postman, you can see where the problems were with that. So clear plan. So when Ronan No Less Name said clear plan, clear communication to the cast and crew of said plan, someone making sure that plan is stuck to. The big thing about this is that Baldwin was not the only producer of this film.
Right.
The other producers were there as well. Representatives of the production companies that were involved in this are going to be on set because every one of them has financial investment into this movie. So there's going to be some representative, if not the producers themselves, there's going to be a representative of the production company there on set because this is how much money we have in. We're going to watch and make sure that this is done. And if something is, say, there's fuckery going on, this rep is going to report back to the studio and be like, okay, look, guys, we financed this like that. I'm seeing this. And that studio company can come down and put, or the financer can come down and put the hammer on him. Like, what the hell are you doing?
Right.
And, that wasn't happening. So, yeah, Baldwin was there and Baldwin was a producer, but there are other people there too.
So here's the thing. We're talking
it wasn't just Baldwin that dropped it, and it wasn't just the armorer that dropped it. there were balls being dropped all over the motherfucking place
Yeah,
in his
yeah.
goddamn production.
Yeah, this was like Magic Mike without Channing Tatum. Sorry, I should make this joke. I shouldn't joke, but hey Gina, or hey Miss Mandy says I was an extra on Talladega Nights. That's cool. Gina S says I weep for the young son of the cinematographer and her husband. You know, and her husband.
Helena Hutchins was so fucking talented. I'm friends with her best friend on Facebook, and we were chatting about her, and it's absolutely insane because, and it's even sadder. She was married, her husband, her son, but also the fact that she had been working her ass off, as crew does. Crews, they make movies.
Right.
To get to where she was, and her star was just beginning to take off. She was just starting to get that recognition you need.
Yeah.
Like,
go back and watch some of those Arch Enemy music videos. You see how good she was at finding the shot.
And there were big people who were starting to take notice.
Yeah, right.
Who is this girl who's kicking ass and taking names? Like, she was starting to get that attention.
Yep.
And then this happened. God.
Yep.
I mean,
so there are a couple of things. I want to address. Go ahead, Eugene.
Oh no, I was just going to elaborate on that. When you have somebody who puts forth and goes towards her dream job and gets to that point where she could be doing a Marvel movie within 5 years if she was still alive.
Yep.
As a DP, and it's a tragedy.
It really is. Beaver C says you can't even be a plumber without years of being trained underneath someone else. That's true. That's absolutely
true. Not in Texas.
Yeah, not anywhere.
Not in Texas anymore. No electricity either.
God, yeah, I forgot they got rid of that requirement.
Texas pulled that requirement, so now
stupid.
your plumbers and your electricians don't need to be apprenticed.
No apprentice. They can be journeymen straight out of fucking
just straight out.
I don't think Texas gives a shit about Texans.
They really don't. It's about money. They want money.
Aaron Reese says so. Evidently, California requires licenses for armorers, but they were shooting in New Mexico, and that's part of the problem too. Is that there's not universal rules across the country. Right. There are reasons why people like to shoot films in Texas, shoot films in New Mexico, because we're a little lax. Texas, you don't have to use union workers. You just don't. Even if it's a Hollywood film, I think there's some things that there are some other rules there. I forget what they are.
Well, you can up to a certain budget point on it. Because, for example, if you use SAG, you can do there's different categories. They have new media format and no budget format that lets you get away. But one of the big things with New Mexico is New Mexico has almost a 30% rebate on it if you film 51% of your film in New Mexico. So if you basically have a $10 million budget on it,
now
New Mexico will write you a check. New Mexico will write you a check for $3 million.
Yeah.
At the end of it.
Robert Castle says, why didn't the red flags accomplish anything? Because, again, as I have alluded to previous, this isn't the first time that a film has had red flags.
Because movies, man.
Yeah.
Movies, making money. It's the industry.
Right.
And you've got a lot. And with a movie like this, that's not loaded down with huge amount of stars. It's not loaded down with a truckload of money. That doesn't have a director that literally just commands everyone. Everyone's like, oh, when you have a situation like this, you have fewer veteran professionals and more people who are just hungry. So you look at, I compare it to the NCAA and the NFL. Why don't we get the spectacle in the NFL that we get in the NCAA? If you've watched college games, these kids destroy themselves to be the best, to look the best, and to perform the best. They will take risks. They will do whatever they can to impress those scouts so that they can get their shot at the big show. Well, it's the exact same thing on a movie set. On a low budget movie set, everyone is trying to essentially give their absolute best and do and push the envelope as hard as they can, because they want to be that one who can show to the big money, this is what I'm capable of. So when you have so many hungry people and less, I would say, veteran professionals around, because the veteran professionals, everyone will always acquiesce to them. They'll be like, stop, no.
Yeah, right.
This is how you do this. When you have more hungry people, these people will take chances. They will take risks they don't need to. They will cut corners in order to get something. It's like, oh, I came in under budget on this, or I was able to pull this off with this, or I was able to do this, or look how ingenious I am, or look how well I can think outside the box. And they think that innovation and that imagination will get them farther. And sadly, it kind of does.
I mean,
It does, but at what expense?
And the thing is you have a lot of productions out there that will have red flags. Like you take Mad Max Fury Road had a ton of problems. They were 100 days behind schedule after 1 day of filming on it. So like you can have these red flags that come up on set and people in the industry are just used to them, but 99.99999 continued. There's never a consequence. Maybe a shot gets cut, maybe someone gets fired, and this is the one that just had the massive consequences on it.
I'm sorry, I'm reading some of these.
Yeah, Aaron Reese is right about that. That's really messed up. And not to mention, if you go back and read the story about that stunt woman on Resident Evil, I think it was Resident Evil 6, either 6 or 7, one of the two. But that stunt woman was, not only did she lose her career, well, maybe she might be able to function other ways as a stunt person. She could do like, a person with no arm and shit like that. But, essentially her career is probably over because of her back injuries and everything. And they, like the production company, the insurance, all that stuff, they completely fucked her after the fact. They have just completely screwed her over. And, essentially the majority of the cost, the majority of the expense of her injury thing was pretty much on her and the insurance, the insurance company that she has. Like there was no protection whatsoever, which I thought should have been a giant flare for the industry, but apparently it wasn't. So studio, what can I say? I mean, it's what's fucked up. Studio's gonna studio,
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, financiers don't care as long as they're making money.
Studio's gonna studio.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of in Tropic Thunder, where they're starting to think about Ben Stiller's death. And they're like, we'll follow insurance claim, we'll say in remembrance, and then we get paid.
Yeah, it's like, and then we'll weep for him in the press. We'll open, do this. We'll, hold this well with this, and then way down the line, I'm talking way down the line, we quietly file an insurance claim.
Yeah. Hey, George Stewart, if you don't like the topic of conversation, you can leave the same way you got here. Simple as that.
Yep.
That's all I'm going to say to you.
Wait. Hang on a sec. What does guys know about this topic? Are they forensic detectives? These idiots know nothing about police investigation. Bunch of blowhard. We're not talking about the police investigation.
No, we're not.
We're talking about film sets because we're filmmakers.
Yes.
And we talk about making movies.
Fucking weird how that works, huh?
Oh my
That's
God.
the topic of the conversation. No, we're not talking about this isn't a fucking police procedural. Did you hear it done before we got started? What the fuck?
Hey, Eugene, what would you know about making movies? Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I didn't hear a dun before these are their stories. So what the fuck are you talking about?
You're still here watching.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't like the conversation, fuck off. I mean, it's real simple.
There are plenty other channels on YouTube you can click
Tons of other things you can be looking at.
I don't see Esapath and Merkerson coming over here to tell me what I can and cannot fucking do.
Well, as long as it's not
Chris Noth. I thought you were in Sex and the City.
Where's what's your name? Hardigay.
Oh, SVU.
She can come tell me what to do all the time.
Yeah, she can.
Duh.
But yeah, how dare we talk about things that
Chris Maloney, both her and Maloney. They can both tell me what to do. I'll be an SVU sandwich.
I just caught that. Oh man. But yeah, I mean, like I said, that's all I'm going to say about that. How dare us filmmakers talk about film sets?
Talk about
what the
film.
shit? But blowhard.
Alan S. Eugene Hawkins is an award-winning director. He said done several shorts, several. These are lots of shit. Oh my god, your IMDb is full of porn.
In terms of film, this is my actual best film award that I won this year for Nail Gun.
Yeah,
there. I actually shot a pilot for HBO that's in post-production right now, and I just finished another shoot this past weekend on it in terms of like thousands upon thousands of dollars, full crew, and I've been doing this for 8 years.
Yeah, so Alan S. he's one of the cooler guys. He's just over his own application, want to know who you were and what your experiences were. But you've actually put 8 years of work into this industry. I think people who want to question what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Alan, this
No,
is not one of Alan. This has always been cool.
No, you're cool. You're cool. Sorry, Alan S. Sorry, Alan S. You're cool.
You caught a little bit of. You got a little bit of
Bring in the
Jinju
stunt-
says,
the
"Bring
stunt
in the stunt penis."
It's not even the same color. Nobody cares.
Well, you told me about William Dafoe and what movie that they had to bring in
Antichrist.
Yeah.
Antichrist, where they had to bring in a smaller penis because no one believed that his penis was as big as it
Yeah,
actually
you
is.
apparently whipping that shit out. No one. It was like I think Lars von Trier's words were, "No one's going to believe that's yours."
That is still one of the largest flexes I've ever seen.
That's
Wrote it. No, that's what I'm saying. I caught an interview with the stunt coordinator for Fury Road. One complicated gun scene was not filmed because of mix-up in the schedule, and he was on the second unit team and not there for that scene. Yeah, that can happen sometimes, and that sucks because that's a lot of money lost. Is because there's a lot of money that went into the preparation of things, and if you completely scrap a scene, like you don't even shoot it and then have to cut it later, that's different. Because all the prep and coordination that went into making that scene happen and like that, all of that is gone. That is wasted time. That is wasted resources. That's wasted energy. That's wasted planning. That's everything. Just, okay, we're just simply not doing it. Well, son of a bitch, because everything was aimed in the direction of making that happen. Now we have to pull everything back and get it restarted to go over here. That is expensive.
Yep.
It's very expensive.
Yes.
You do not get that time and money back.
Yeah.
Nope.
People don't realize that cutting room floor is littered with billions of dollars.
Well, the cutting room floor is actually good because I mean, obviously, capitalism. You're going to find a way to make everything make money for you.
Sure.
So the cutting room floor became fantastic, be a fantastic moneymaker on home releases, especially when everything with digital releases with the advent of DVDs. Because now everything on the cutting room floor can now go into the bonus features of it, and that justifies you going to buy the movie again, so you can see the stuff that you didn't see in theaters.
Right.
Ooh. Now,
or the director's cut, or the
director's cut of the VHS, like they'll re-release a VHS with all the additional stuff put back in. That's more expensive, but with DVD, revolutionized the industry, and even the cutting room floor became a moneymaker because then it's like, oh, this will look good. Because I've heard of some directors, they'll be like, oh, this will look great in the bonus features. Like they'll shoot something just for the sake of putting it in there to justify a DVD.
Well, nowadays your second your second AD, whenever he's not doing or he or she is not doing B-roll or second shots, they'll fucking be on set filming all the behind the scenes shit just for that reason.
Yeah, and we'll see nowadays the whole movie making experience is documented. Where it used to be, you didn't hear about a movie until it's kind of about to be released, like the trailer pops, and then you say. And nowadays, it's like I found out today, Dune 2 is already got greenlit.
Yeah.
So it will fall, and it's not going to come out for what 2, maybe 3 years.
You're
but we're follow the procedure now. That's the way it is.
Yeah, there's no real mystery in film anymore. Because
sometimes one will surprise me where one will get by me and I had no idea it was coming. I'll be like, and I keep my ear pretty much to the ground listening for those buffalo. And occasionally one will come up. I'll be like, where the fuck did you come from? It's because they were intentionally very secretive. But you know who it is who can really pull those off? The streaming houses. Yeah. The streaming houses can do that because they do everything. Yeah. It's not like a studio that really gets it. They like Netflix is very good on that. Like, for example, because my wife is a big fan of it. My wife is watching Lock and Key. Lock and Key's third season has already been greenlit. 2 just dropped like yesterday, I think. So, I mean, no one saw that coming. And the only reason that information got out is because 2 just dropped. And then it was like, oh, shit. Oh, yeah, by the way, we're already in 3 as it goes. But I've noticed that, and I kind of dig that. I kind of like, being surprised by stuff because, we have our ears to the ground so much about what's coming out.
Right. Well, we've been at this for quite some time, hour and a half now. It's time to wrap. Any final thoughts on this particular situation? We'll start with the director of the award-winning Nail Gun.
And the thing is this. First of all, it's a tragedy. And no one should ever lose their life, be seriously injured on a set. It should absolutely never happen. And I'm hoping is that productions look at this and they rethink that the way they handle weapons, that maybe the little people kind of push, oh, I can get away with this, get away with this, which finally led to the tragic death of somebody, that people readjust and go back and go, no, we need to make sure these things are implemented. And I'm hoping that these crews that come out, as soon as they see something, they say something, or the crew bounces and they're out. It doesn't get made. That's what I'm hoping, that it's a tragedy. It should never happen. And that everybody should learn from this incident.
Absolutely. JL, what you got to say?
So, in the wake of this, first I want to give like that. My heart goes out to the friends and the family of Helena Hutchins, the incredibly talented cinematographer and DP who lost her life on this. And I wanted to make sure that people saw what she looked like. She she loved the industry. She, unfortunately, she died, but at least she was doing what she loved. But yeah, that's it's just an absolute tragedy. And of course, my heart also goes out to the director, who also suffered, severe injuries doing this. But I want to just, give my condolences out to them. I also want to make people aware that the AFI, the American Film Institute, has set up a scholarship for women in cinematography in her name, in Helena's name. And you can check that out if you go to afi.com. The information is there about that scholarship for women in cinematography to help them establish and maintain jobs in the industry as cinematographers and DPs. So it's a really cool thing that they set up in her name. I think she would have really been proud of it. As far as this goes, as far as the future of the industry, unfortunately, and I speak from experience on this, I can tell you what I hope for. I can tell you what's probably going to happen. Is that I hope that this will be a wake-up call, that people will begin to take these things more seriously, safety will be taken more seriously, and that incidents like this will become a thing of the past. Unfortunately, capitalism reigns supreme, and just as these things occur, they didn't learn after Brandon Lee. There's a number of other incidents that they did not learn after, or they don't care. So money's going to be money, and studios are going to studio. I fear that it's the liability of this is going to be in the tabloids. It's going to be in the tabloids and the news for a while, and then people are going to get hit. Alec Baldwin is probably not going to work for some time, if ever again. If any effect, of like what happened to Michael Massey on the set of The Crow, it took him 10 years to return to the industry, and even then he wasn't sure if he could. But eventually he did, and he's maintained a pretty decent career since then. Just low key, small stuff. I can't even imagine what Alec is going through. It's absolutely nuts. But I think I fear once this passes and it's out of the news, and we've the masses, or the public has moved on to the next big thing. Then it's just going to get brushed under the table as it has the past. I hope it doesn't. And that's, it's going to take awareness and demand from the public, and demand from unions, demand from actors, people willing to put their careers on the line in order to make sure stuff like this doesn't happen. Because that's what it's going to take ultimately, is actors, not just the unions themselves, but actors, crew, people saying, no, we're not doing this until this gets fixed. And people, you could lose your career doing that, unfortunately. That's why I don't know if this will have any big change. I can hope it will, but I'm a bit of a cynic when it comes to Hollywood, changing in that respect. So, hopefully it will.
I'd like to see some changes. Definitely erring on the side of safety for certain. But yeah, at the end of the day, this is a tragedy. A young woman lost her life doing something that never should have involved the risk of her life. And it is a tragedy. And I really do feel for her family, her son and her husband. I do feel again for Alec Baldwin, because this was not his intention. Yeah. He didn't intend to hurt anybody, let alone, permanently hurt someone. That's got to be a terrible thing. He's going to have to live with that for the rest of his life. These types of things, they change people. Mm-hmm. It's not something that any one of us would wish on anybody. I wouldn't wish, hey, I hope you accidentally do something terrible to somebody else. No, that's not something, you know what I mean? If you're good, people don't go through that thought process. Good people don't want to see other good people, or even they don't want to see other people, period, go through this. It's not fun. And like I said, a son is going to have to grow up without his mother now. And these are things that all of these people involved are going to have to think about. That's going to be on the forefront of their minds for a long time. They were all part of something that a tragedy of this magnitude. And I hope it does bring about some change. I am a cynic as well, and I think there's going to be a lot of talking heads like this that are going to say a lot of things and a lot of words and people tears and this, that, and the other. And then at the end of the day, 6 months from now, we're going to be talking about something completely different.
Yeah.
So I hope things change. And to everyone involved with this, I hope that you can find some sort of closure and some healing. Hopefully we can get away with get away from the emotion and deal and process. And like I said, I hope that something good comes from this. That way it's not a complete waste of human life. That being said, it's time to get out of here. I really do want to thank my guests, Eugene and JL. It's always fun talking with you guys. Thank you for hopping on. You can catch these guys tomorrow. Well, I think tomorrow, Eugene, you've got projects, so you won't be on the Weekend Horror tomorrow. I'll be there instead. So
It'll be you and Alex.
Yeah.
So anyway, a lot of fun.
Eugene's out there being all fucking famous and shit.
We call him
my Spielberg thing.
We call him the Black Spielberg, and it's not because he's black; it's because he's the black sheep. That's what it was exactly. It's because he's Liam. He's Eugene Nielsen. Or no, that doesn't matter. Doesn't make sense. Let's get out of here. I'm tired. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you for all the super chats, all the new members, and everybody who wants to come and hang out with us. And it's all fun. You guys are awesome. We will see you. I'll see you on Friday with a new plot hole video, and then see you next Tuesday. Boy, that says. I will see you with another video. I'm sorry. I'll see you with another live stream on Tuesday.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Jesus Christ!
I was going to say anything. It was just like
so bad. That was so bad. All right, we'll see you guys. Cheers, everybody.